But we are going to bring in now someone who has devoted serious attention and brain power to what happens internationally. He is Arnaud De Borchgrave, the senior advisor to Transnational Threats Project. And Arnaud, we welcome you into America's Forum. We thank you for your time today, and want to talk to you about this. What is your take on this notion that Iran and the United States may, for lack of a better term, become allies with the emerging situation in Iraq?
I would doubt that very seriously. I think we have to go back to how we originally got involved in Iraq in 2003. 11 months before that, I was at a dinner given by the Vice President, Cheney. Nuclear weapons, weapons of mass destruction never came up once as a reason for invading Iraq. It was to establish some kind of democracy in Iraq that would then have a ripple effect around Israel and guarantee Israel 25 years of peace and security. That was the sum total of what was discussed at that dinner at the Vice President's.
That was then. This is now. Arnaud, we look at the situation now. John Kerry sitting down with Katie Couric in her new role at Yahoo, talking about the possibility now of drone strikes in the region, American-sponsored drone strikes. Let's listen to this. I'd like to get your reaction.
I think we are open to any constructive process here that could minimize the violence, hold Iraq together, the integrity of the country, and eliminate the presence of outside terrorist forces that are ripping it apart.
So there is Secretary Kerry talking about the possibility of airstrikes. Do you believe that the United States will use drones in the situation as Iraq continues to unravel?
It may very well use drones. I have no idea whether we will or not, but I do today believe that that would be a tragic mistake. I think if we're trying to save the Maliki government, let's not forget what the Maliki government has done, which is ease out all the Sunnis. He has deepened religious differences, and I think that to support him against what's happening today would be a tragic mistake.
So again, just to get your perspective, the current prime minister, the elected leadership, in your view, has heightened the sectarian difficulties now in Iraq.
Oh, without a doubt. And he is the one who is responsible for having given the whole reason of existence of what's happening today and why it has become so brutal and savage on the part of the Sunnis now trying to restore some kind of authority in Baghdad. And let's not forget, at the beginning there was a coalition between these two branches of Islam, and Maliki eased out the Sunnis bit by bit to the point where he had them all expelled and was being a minority president in a country that is majority Sunni.
Arnaud, I want to get your reaction to some of the things that are being said by some of the same folks who were banging the drum, as I mentioned before, to lead up to the 2003 invasion of Iraq. Senator Lindsey Graham had this to say about President Obama's foreign policy, and we'll get your reaction on the other side.
We were well on our way. The lack of a residual force, this stubborn-headed president we have, who thinks he knows better than everybody else, who withdrew troops and exposed this country to the inevitable, needs to change his policies quickly.
So, Arnaud, what do you think when you hear some of these same calls coming from these hawks again and again about what we should do in Iraq, and what's your response?
Well, I think it's extremely dangerous to go that route. I've explained to you a minute ago why I think it is dangerous. We have a few super hawks who've totally forgotten what happened at the beginning of the invasion, our invasion of Iraq. It was all based on lies that Iraq allegedly had weapons of mass destruction. All that was made up by a phony defector from Iraq who wouldn't come to the States, stopped in Germany. His code name was Curveball, and he later admitted that he'd made up the whole story. So we had very flimsy evidence for getting into Iraq in the first place.
So the takeaway from this, and I realize this crisis continues, but when you talk about intelligence failures and inaccurate intelligence, to put it mildly, Arnaud, what type of corrective action can be taken? Is this if we're going to pinpoint problems here, is this a lack of human intelligence, having agents well positioned to be able to test the veracity of those who come in with this information, as opposed to eyes in the sky and people sitting at desks monitoring communications internationally?
Absolutely. There's nothing can replace human intelligence. And how come we didn't know that Curveball was a defector from the Iraqi army and had made up the whole story in order to gain access to Germany and his girlfriend? And he wouldn't come to the States. We had to send intelligence people over there to talk to him. And we swallowed that hook, line, and sinker, which led to a catastrophic war that cost us, as you know, about $1 trillion, 4,200 American killed, and about 22,000 wounded in action.
1 minute left, give or take a few seconds, Arnaud. Your prescription for the future, what do we take away? Not so much the Iraqi crisis here and now, but the longer view. What lessons do we have to learn?
Well, the longer view is that we need better human intelligence, obviously, because it was terrible, to put it mildly, about a war that was totally unnecessary and cost us a fortune. And today we need also better intelligence, and we also need a lot of pressure on Maliki to widen his government and to stop excluding anything that doesn't have the label of the proper religious label. He should try to bring Sunnis back into the coalition government, and that's my bottom line. Is this is what we should be doing today, and not getting involved once again with an air bombing campaign. I think we know that air bombing doesn't do very much in terms of changing the situation on the ground.
Arnaud De Borchgrave, we thank you very much, sir, for your insights, your analysis. We'll be calling on you again, as international woes always seem to be with us. Thank you for your insights, sir.
Thank you. My pleasure.
You know, you look at this situation, JD, and you think about the whole entire Iraq war, the last 10 plus years we've been over there. It continues to, what we're seeing now, a reminder of the dangers of military adventurism. And Arnaud mentioned this in previous conversations. This is the case study on how things can go wrong.
Hindsight, sadly, is always 20/20. You have to make decisions with the information you have. The key thing is to have the right information. More information and opinion for you coming up on America's Forum.